On the Sidelines, Episode 1.
When the game ends and those Friday night lights dim,
that's the cue to turn our attention onto the very players, coaches, and community that makes football in Union County great.
Join Tim Winters as he covers the game from every angle, here on the Sidelines.
Welcome, Union County Football Nation. This is Tim Winters on the Sidelines, the official podcast of Union County Football. After 10 months on the back burner, we have launched, and I am extremely excited to have on as my first guest here on the Sidelines, Mr. Doug Jones, my good friend, the Director of Athletics of the Union County Public School System, easily one of the most recognizable people that you will find within the Union County Public School System because he puts himself out there. He is at about every sporting event that you can imagine, whether it is women's soccer, men's baseball, women's volleyball. He is out there in support of our student athletes. He makes himself available. His follow-up is second to none. And it is, again, my extreme pleasure to have him. And I couldn't imagine starting this podcast with anybody else but Doug Jones. So who is Doug Jones? Doug has been an employee of the Union County Public School System for 29 years. During that time, he has served as an athletic director for 21 years, 3 at Parkwood High School and 18 years at Monroe High School before jumping into his current role 6 years ago as the Director of Athletics of the Union County Public School System. So without further ado, let's get to the interview. Well, I'm excited to have my first feature guest here on the Sidelines, Doug Jones. Doug, welcome to On the Sidelines.
Thank you, Tim, and let me just say thank you for what you do for Union County athletics and promoting football in our county.
Well, it's my pleasure, Doug. And, in your intro, 29 years as an employee of the Union County Public School System. Most people don't do anything for 29 years. Maybe just catch us up on maybe where everything started with you and where you are now as your role as the Director of Athletics.
Well, it's kind of funny that, 29 years in one place, you have to like what you do and or really love what you do. And athletics has helped me through part of it. But going back, I was assistant coach at Wingate University, Wingate College at the time, and graduated with a degree in accounting and got a job at the bank. And I thought about it, and I said, I don't want to do that route. I still want to be involved in athletics. So I continued coaching at Wingate with the late coach Johnny Jackman, and got my degree in education history, and the rest is history. I got a job at Piedmont in 1986 for a semester, and Monroe for a semester in 87, and then started full-time in 87 at Sun Valley for 3 years. Coached there, coached basketball and football there. Boys basketball, went to Parkwood, was the girls coach there for 4 years. AD'd there, 3, and then Monroe for where I went to high school for 18. Coached boys and girls tennis there while I was still coaching basketball at Wingate University, and I was fortunate enough to get Director of Athletics for Union County Schools 6 years ago, and that's where I am now, Tim.
And most people probably don't even realize, unless you're obviously your close personal friends and relationships, that you've been a resident of this county for quite a long time. Talk about that and your passion for sports and where that evolved.
It's good and bad because I do know everybody laughs. Everybody says you ought to be mayor of something somewhere because I know it even outside of Union County, and a lot of that goes back to the Wingate days and recruiting and throughout the Southeast. But Union County, my mom brought us here when I was 3, 2 older brothers, and been here ever since. Went to Monroe High, and my office right now, I'm in the old Walter Bickett. Those people that are familiar, I'm here in my 4th grade classroom upstairs, so people can relate to where we are right now. And it's good because people trust you. People, they know that you're genuine, trying to help them and so forth. But sometimes you get those calls that probably should be going to the schools themselves and the ADs. And but it's all good in the long run. If I can help, that's my job. I laugh about it sometimes, even with you. I tell everybody my job is a problem solver, and so it's been a great experience. Just an advantage to knowing everybody. I think it's been more pluses than negatives.
Talk about the love for sports and where that evolved and your passions.
It's funny because I've played sports all my life. I loved baseball growing up, and basketball. Played a lot of baseball, but in middle school you tried out, and to this day I was a great shooter, but I just didn't have the running up and down the court as fast as I needed to be, and so in the sixth grade, Coach Stan Summerlin was coaching middle school basketball. I played some rec basketball, but didn't make the team, and asked me to be manager, and I thought I was like the coolest guy around. He let me have a key, and I'd sneak over to school and wash uniforms on the weekends and this and that. And then got to high school, same thing. I could shoot and do that, do the stuff. Knew the X and O's, but just wasn't fast enough. And with Luke Collins, and just Luke was a great male role model for me, and still is today, one of my best friends. And same thing. He took me under his wing, and he would sit and talk about basketball, this and that, and I just started loving it more and more. Met Coach Johnny Jackman. He was at Parkwood. When Monroe played Parkwood, was a big rival. Met him, so I kind of knew him, and started writing part time for the newspaper Inquirer Journal with the sports department. Went to UNCC one year and still wrote a little bit. Wasn't involved in anything really, but transferred to Wingate, and I was able to get a scholarship as the manager for the men's team with Wayne Shadrick, and Wayne's still down there in the Wingate in some realm. And as I was walking off campus one day, ran into Coach Jackman, and he remembered me from Monroe. And he's like, "Yeah, I need some help with the girls." He was just starting the program, and I thought, well, that'd be interesting, And so I got involved with him, and coached there for 23 years, and I think that just enabled me to get back into the high school, coaching, boys and girls tennis, basketball, football, and those type things around here. And just, once you're hooked back in 10, 11 years old, you're always hooked. And, me and you've had some conversations and about our growing up times and who we've met, athletically and professionally, those type things. And, I posted something the other day on Twitter about the memory. It goes through so fast that if people, the athletes today would look at themselves today and appreciate it, it would mean a lot more in the future, instead of it goes by so fast, then they're looking back on it. And I hope that I and the coaches, we got great coaches and ADs in Union County, get that out to the kids, enjoy it, have fun. This is a lifetime for you, and when you get away, you're going to regret some of the things. So take advantage of it in today. So I just love it. I love what I do. I've got a dream job right now.
Yeah, you can see it for sure in 29 years. That's a testament to that. I mean, you did bring up the fact of kids, whether or not they're really soaking in the moment and relishing it. And I guess in some cases they are, but most of them are so self-absorbed, putting things out on Twitter the moment it happens. Can you really enjoy anything?
Yeah, social media is it's dangerous. It's you sit there and see things that are put out there by our athletes across the United States, and it's just you amaze yourself, like, are they thinking before they actually type those letters? But yeah, if they would just take advantage, put the phones down, put the computers down, get outside, go play, volleyball, basketball, track, cross country, whatever the sport is, the memories and the responsibilities and just the learning from it would benefit them in the future, probably more so than putting something out on Twitter that you don't like somebody because they go to another school or something like that. So it's been amazing. The growth of social media has been staggering in my mind.
And you're pretty big in it yourself?
Yeah, I do. I try to put out as much as I can about our athletes and scores and updates and whatever it might be. Every once in a while something funny. The people that know me, I'm sarcastic sometimes, so sometimes put something out there. Tim, you do such a great job yourself. You're heck, every Friday night, if I'm not at your game, I'm somewhere, but I see you every week doing something, promoting our athletes on social media and Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and those are the good people that, it's out. You're not gaining anything from it, Tim, and our athletes are, and that's what it's about. It's not about us, it's about them. So, yeah. it's good in a lot of ways.
Well, I do love it, and I enjoy it. And, before we move on through the interview, I just want to step back on your role as a director of athletics. You called yourself a problem solver, but we've discussed this in the past. When there have been problems, a lot of people think that you have more involvement than you actually do. And I'm really talking more about your direct role as a director of athletics, what you do, what you don't do, because there have been accusations and innuendos on forums that when we had a lot of coaching changes 2 years, 3 years ago, that you were involved in a lot of those moves. If you can maybe address that and dispel any type of rumors and situations that have surrounded.
Well, the only way I know about the message boards and so forth is from you, so I don't read them. Anybody can post anything under any name they want or whatever, so that's fine. But there's a lot of misconceptions about this job. I don't hire and fire. That's a principal's decision at their school, 100%. That's part of it. And what people don't realize,
and that is across the board, every school in Union County Public Schools is the principal.
Yes, elementary, middle, high school, all of it. And we are hired as teachers. I was hired as a government teacher. I taught government in the classroom for 26 years, but I was fortunate enough to coach. Coaching in anywhere in North Carolina, coaching is not the job. Coaching is a extracurricular activity, just like drama, band, anything like that. But people don't look at it that way. And when they see an opening, you see all these names that, let's hire them, let's hire him. Well, principals their hands are tied because you've got to be able to hire somebody that teaches a subject that you've got open. There may be somebody that you really want in there, but if the school doesn't have that opening, you can't just get rid of a teacher to bring in somebody that's going to coach. And a lot of people don't think about it that way. So, the coaches, I've been involved in interviews with several different sports and coaches, but I'm one of 10 on that board, and the board nominates and the principal decides, and it goes, like I said, it's solely up to the principal. They don't have to interview if they really don't want to, I guess, but it's the right thing to do, and once a person is, I guess, suggested by the principal, then obviously it goes through the process of getting hired in Union County schools. So I don't have the right to pick up the phone and call and say hire this person or fire this person. That's a principal's decision, not Doug Jones. I would think that I've had people call me and ask me, do I know of somebody or do I know anything about this person, because I do know a lot of people, and I'll be glad to share what I know with those people. But as far as anybody getting fired in Union County, it's never been through my office. Like I said, I'm a problem solver. I'm there for the ADs and the coaches. I'm a shoulder. I like to think that I know the rules as good as anybody. Playing regulations through the state association with their big handbook that they have, and here's a copy of it, and I read it about every day. And helping partnerships with Novant and BSN with our bulk purchasing. We've saved over $1 million there. Novant with our trainers was one of the first things that I helped do was bring trainers in to all the schools with the partnership with Novant. That's probably over a $7 million deal. Safety was first on my mind, and that's worked out really well for us. We have paid trainers in all our high schools paid for by Novant, and not a dime out of our pocket in Union County schools, so that's worked out real well. Dr. Webb assisted that also. But overall, it's just I'm a friend to the schools in trying to. I want it to be the best they can. I want to make sure that they understand the rules when they have questions, and those type things. We have regularly monthly, bi-monthly meetings, and we go over and discuss those type things. And I'm a phone call away, and whether it's a principal, an AD, a coach, or even a parent that has a question, either recruiting or transferring or guardianship versus custodianship, that's my job. So HR handles employment, not me.
All right. Now moving on, looking back and reflecting on the state of football in Union County, how it's evolved from one or two public schools here to where we are today. How have you seen football change in the county over the years?
Well, when I was growing up, we had 5 high schools. Monroe, Sun Valley, Parkwood, Piedmont, and Forest Hills. And in the 80s, of course, Forest Hills was the big team to beat. They were state champions. Back in those days, you actually played the state championship game on a high school field. And it was nice. You always knew, but all 5 schools were rivals. At that time because you're playing everybody. You always played those. And what I recall is, and I posted it on Facebook and Twitter. I found a 1971 ruler that I had when I was in school, and it had Monroe's football schedule on the back of it. But just recall, we always played the Cabarrus teams. Central, Northwest, Concord, A.L. Brown, and that was it. A lot of times we were in the same conference, but it was a lot of fun. Everybody knew everybody, but it was big rivals, and you still had the painting of the schools and the things they do today. They did all those sort of things, but it was you didn't have the combines, the camps, year round. All that. Football players back in the day played 3 sports. Track, basketball, whatever it might have been at that time. And then as the new schools started opening, your thought would be, well, we're not going to be as good as we thought because we're going to water it down. But you got to look at it realistically. We're not watering it down. We're getting bigger, so you're having more to choose from. And those schools, even in my eyes, even though at the time I wasn't director of athletics for the school system, I was in a school. You're thinking, well, they're probably not going to be that good. But most of those schools, the Porter Ridge, Weddington, Cuthbertson, Marvin Ridge, they blossomed probably sooner than most people thought, in their early ages. And that's a compliment to the AD, to the coaches, to the kids, to the parents, getting those kids ready for immediate success. And it's been great. I mean, all of our football teams have been competitive, in my time here. We got Forest Hills State Championship. Monroe's lost a couple of state championships. Porter Ridge, 3 years in a row. Piedmont back in the Jester days had great years. Parkwood went 3rd in the state down here. They had some great teams in the late 80s. Sun Valley, has always been, when they were 3A back, was a power. And then, of course, Weddington this year, Cuthbertson had a great run. Marvin Ridge has had a couple of really good years. So they've all had their success. And so I think it's just not so much has changed as far as being a high level of football in Union County. I think it's just we have more opportunities, and it's just a different type of athlete today.
Any concerns or thoughts regarding the maybe what is perceived as a stalled growth of participation in football because of the health-related issues, concussion specifically? Any thoughts about that, and maybe what the county is doing to address that?
Well, I think that's blown out of proportion. You look at the numbers and so forth. It's not as bad as people think. Is not playing. You'll see an athlete. Well, my kid's not going to play. Well, you know what? Your son can fall off a bicycle. Or whatever, play soccer and get hit. There's as many concussions in soccer and lacrosse as there are in football. So I think that the numbers are overblown or overreacting is what it is. But in Union County, obviously one of the first things we did was the trainers. But since then, we've put in mandatory meetings with all the paid coaches. We do the football head coaches separately. In July, and then we do all coaches, and the head football coaches have to come back and see it again. But all coaches in August, where we go over first aid, dehydration, but concussions are obviously discussed and it's not just football coaches; it's every sport. There's also a website that I put up through our school system that the coaches have to go through and read literature and so forth and videos and they have to do. And then the state requires. Now, for every paid coach, they must pass a National Federation concussion class and also a National Federation coaching fundamentals class. And in 2017, they are now requiring all coaches to pass an AED first aid class. which before they didn't have that, which is all great. And so I think safety's first with everybody. The trainers are at every practice. They're at school after school for rehab and things like that. We have a partnership with Novant where our athletes can get into Novant basically without an appointment if need be. Aftercare is there. Rehab, all that's taken care of. So I think we were one of the first ever to have the partnership with the hospital. Since then, I know Mecklenburg's got one, Cabarrus has got one, Stanley and Anson right now are negotiating. I think they may have already completed, but if they did, it's new. Fayetteville, Cumberland County has just done it, but we're one of the first three, I think, in the state to have it, and it's just been developing by leaps and bounds.
So you're privy to, obviously, issues of concussions, reported concussions in the county. Have you seen an increase over the last 5 years compared to previous 5?
I keep a track. The trainers will send me the number of concussions per sport each month, and it's stable. It's you might have 1 month that had more than the next, and then it levels out. But I don't see a spike in it. I think if there is a spike, and the numbers have gone up, I'd be lying to say they didn't, but I think the numbers have gone up some because people are more educated in it. I don't think people in the past knew about it as much as we know today. So much education has come out on it. So now we're cautious, to the point that you threw up, you're dizzy, you're not sleeping, you got headaches, How did that come about? Well, I got hit in the head. Well, with the testing, we offer every athlete the impact test for free. It's a baseline test. You take it when you're feeling fine, and then if you get hit in the head, you take it again, and the doctors can compare the brain waves. So there's ways of seeing that. So I think the education piece has made the numbers go up, but that's not a bad thing. That's just saying we're taking care of business now.
As draft day approaches, you have a unique perspective because one of our former players, Monroe High School grad and soon-to-be Duke grad, Jamison Crowder, was a student of yours. Talk about Jamison as a student and how his being pulled into the NFL, I'm sure he will be drafted, how you think that will impact Monroe and the county as a whole.
Well, going back to being here all my life, I grew up with his father, J.C. Crowder, and J.C. was a great athlete in his own right at Monroe. So we got Anthony Boone down at Weddington and Isaac Blakeney from Monroe also, who we're hoping to get in there. But Jameson's probably the best shot, like you said, out of Monroe. I got a better hand at it because Jameson was actually in my class, my advanced government class, as a sophomore. And what a great kid. As AD at Monroe, I see him every day after school at practices, at games. Of course, he played 2 sports. He actually came out for tennis there for one season, and just a great athlete, great kid. I don't think I've ever seen him not smiling. I mean, even when he's playing, he's smiling. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You're welcome type of guy. And the other 2 gentlemen are too. They're great. All those 3 are great and great upbringings. But when Jameson comes back, I remember when he graduated, he'd come back. The kids, the younger kids would kind of hibernate around him and so forth. But I know Jameson. I've talked to Jameson, and he has gone to several schools around the state, especially in the Durham area, being from Duke, talking to the younger kids, and just what a role model. I mean, you can't ask for anybody better than him and the other 2. And just, I think, the athletes that we've had to come through Monroe that have played a pro sport, we've got some of their jerseys up in the gym. I was able to get those, and they, once those names are up there, it creates a different aura for that kid and that school. It's just a pride, how many times I remember saying, I grew up with this guy. He was a pro baseball player, or whether he went to Monroe High School. I went to school with him. It means a lot. And when people say Jamison Crowder, it's funny. They know he went to Monroe High School already, and a lot of publicity. I agree with you. I think he'll be drafted, and he great family, like I said, and Coach Sal at Monroe has done a great job with him and coached him in football, also in basketball, and so I think just overall, it's just the impact is priceless. You just don't know it'll be unlimited as long as Jameson wants it to be.
And in terms of Friday night football, I think most are in agreement that when it comes to high school sports, that Friday night is unrivaled when you compare it to any other sport throughout the school year. Just talk about what Friday night football means to you, maybe as a kid and now.
Well, it's a great gathering every Friday when you talk about Friday night football, especially in Union County or really any county in North Carolina. Of course, I get the pleasure of going to every sport, and supporting all of them. I love all the sports, I really do. And you see how many miles I drive and so forth. I love them all. But talking specifically about football, even for me today, I'm looking on the schedule. I'm looking on the calendar. I'm circling games I'd like to go to. I'm fortunate. I get to see everybody play like you, Tim. I get to see everybody play. Where I was at Monroe, I was kind of limited. Didn't get to see everybody play. So it's a lot of fun to me to go around and see these schools, see the excitement of not just the kids, but the students, the band, the parents. And it's so, even though they're all good, it's so different at each school, the different personalities when you go to these schools. And it creates for excitement. And you wait for that kickoff and you're looking at the weather report and you're looking at the temperature and saying, what am I going, because I'm going, it's just how's it going to be? And you want to get there and you see it's such a social event for the communities because so many people go and that's what they like to do and the only thing they do on Friday nights. And you have reunions of college kids coming back that played or former players down the road that are older that come back and they're all talking before the game and coming over and saying this and that. It's just exciting. I think that if people would give it a chance and go, even if they don't have kids playing football, they would enjoy the atmosphere. The popcorn, the hot dogs, the nachos, whatever it might be, the bands, and we got a lot of great bands in this county, and but our kids deserve support, and our coaches and our ADs, and it's getting even bigger, I think, Tim.
I agree, absolutely. All right, Doug, you survived that first round of questions. We're going to go into some quick-fire questions now. You are easily, I don't know how many other director of athletics throughout the state, but you're correct. You talked about the fact that you are at just about every event. I don't think there's anybody that has seen as many Union County football events as you. And aside from that, you're also one of the more tech-savvy people that I know. So the first question is your favorite app on your phone, which is an iPhone 6.
Well, it would. People laugh and say it probably ought to be grown on me or whatever because I do use it so much. It's my life. I mean, it helps my job. But I would say, I'm gonna give you two, and I'll tell you why. My favorite app is probably Golf Now. I like playing golf when I can, whenever I have free time, but I can find some really good deals on there. So that's probably my favorite app. But my most used app is the weather. And for example, today, I mean, my phone, has been ringing all day, all week. And anytime we have inclement weather, I'm looking at it. But I'll be honest with you, I look at it every day, hourly, whatever. I always have to keep abreast of what's going on in the weather and, whether it's, thunderstorms or hot during the summer or whatever it might be, snow come, sometime in the winter, whatever it might be, I have to be able to get it word out to the ADs because, again, we want our kids to be safe. So that's my most used one, but I really like Golf Now.
Okay, cool. If you had a chance to meet any athlete, living or deceased, who would it be and why?
Well, I've actually got three, and the first one, and it's ironic that you asked this question because I've always admired him as being a coach and so forth. But Dean Smith was my first one, and he just passed away a couple months ago. And growing up, I just thought he was the greatest guy. I shook his hand at the old. They had a Big Four tournament at Coliseum every year. And I shook his hand one day, and I was a little kid, and I've always been a Carolina fan, and I always liked the way he did things. And you read his books and everything. He's just what a class guy. He broke some of the color barriers with Charlie Scott, and I'd like to sit down with him in the mid '60s when they were burning him effigy, and just see what his thoughts were at that time. Did he care what they thought? Did he not care? He's young. He just got hired from after Frank McGuire left. That's one of them. Another one, and I actually. I'd be lying if I didn't say I teared up, but Dale Earnhardt when he passed away. But Dale Earnhardt when he was just to get his personality, I'd like to pick on it and just see, how did you get that fire? How did you get that desire and the intimidation that or behind the scenes, was he really a different person? That's what I'd like to know from him. And living Tim, and I think I mentioned this with you before, my boy Greg Maddox, and any interview I see from him, it's just what a stickler, what a perfectionist of the game of baseball. I mean, anybody who could throw it on a dime anywhere you put that dime, or whether it was a curveball, changeup, fastball, which he didn't have a fastball, but I just think he is such a sharp person. Just that would be my other one on those.
We've talked about Greg Maddox and his career numbers, and you look at the two stadiums he pitched in, Wrigley Field and Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. I mean, two bandboxes for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, in the Fulton County, the launch pad, and then you go to Turner, which basically had shorter fences, and so it'd be neat. So.
All right, now we're going to go off a little bit on this one just to give us a little different perspective. Your favorite meal, comfort food, your favorite meal?
Well, it's funny you say that because 3 weeks ago I went to the doctor and I have been on fruits and vegetables for 3 weeks, cutting out red meat. But if I get myself healthy again and or back in my younger days, it would either have to be pizza or shrimp, and I've always, that's probably not exciting to anyone, but those I'm different because are weird. I developed an allergy for fish when I was younger, and I still have it, but I'm not allergic to shellfish. Most people are the opposites, and I can still eat shellfish, but shrimp anyway, and pizza usually pepperoni.
What about shrimp on pizza?
Never had it, but that might be something I could have. Pepperoni shrimp pizza. That would be nice. Right now, because like I said, I just had a banana for a snack. So,
all right, last question. One there where we can suspend reality and dream a little bit. You have unlimited cash and the ability to jump back and forth through time. Given those resources, describe your perfect sports weekend.
Well, I would have to. I'm going to have to be able to use my powers to manipulate, my string pulling and puppetry and everything else, and kind of move a couple of things off the traditional day, if that's okay.
All right.
But obviously, I'm gonna leave high school football on Friday night. I've been in Texas the last few Christmases when they're playing their state championship, and 65,000 people in Texas Stadium, Cowboy Stadium, and hadn't been to one. But I'd like to go to one of those on a Friday night. It doesn't have to be the state championship. They've got a $60 million stadium, high school stadium down there. I still think, going back to what we said about Friday Night Football, I think Texas Friday Night Football might be fun to watch. Slide me over to Saturday. Go to I would like to go to the Saturday night race in Bristol. It's the night race in Bristol. It's in August. I've never been to that one. I think Bristol's a neat track. There's a little quarter mile and beating and banging all the way around. 100,000 people there in that little bowl, and I think that would be a neat situation there. And then Sunday, you're just loaded with Sundays. I mean, I'd like to see the Wimbledon finals. I'd like Super Bowl, of course. The World Series, but if I could pick my teams, I'm going back to the '69 Mets, for one. Super Bowl, I want to replay the Super Bowl with Dallas and Green Bay, the Ice Bowl. That one still haunts us. If not that one, the Pittsburgh one with the Lynn Swann catch. Maybe watch those. Like I said, I've played tennis all my life and coached it. I just think when you have two high-level players. It's just amazing to watch them. The athletes, I don't think people realize the athleticism of tennis players, especially when they're playing 4.5, 5 hours in the heat. And then, you go to Monday, and I've never been to a NBA championship game, but I have been to an NCAA championship game, which is on Mondays. Actually, they're on Tuesdays, aren't they now? Maybe an NBA championship game on Monday, and then a Final Four with Carolina on Tuesday.
All right. Well, Doug, I do appreciate all the time that you've given to me this afternoon. This is a podcast really to promote the football and the student athletes here in Union County. And just before we close, any words of wisdom that you can give to the student athletes, whether it's here in Union County or across the country, from your years of experience, any sage advice that you can impart on the student athlete of today?
Well, first, Tim, let me again thank you for what you do, and you are unsung. I mean, I appreciate really what you do, and I think that if more people that get aware of it will start following, and I mean, you got thousands and thousands, but I do appreciate it, and I know they do. But it's for the athletes, first and foremost, they've got to understand that the coaches and the ADs have the right mentality for them to succeed. They wouldn't be there if they didn't. They're obviously not there for the money, and they're paid very minimal, not even hourly wage when it comes to the time they put in for their sport, football especially. So these players, these football players, they need to go to their coaches, they need to go to their ADs, they need to go to Tim Winters, Doug Jones, and there's opportunities out there for them to succeed, high school level, and even getting on into college. You don't have to go to Division I to be successful. There's lots of Division II, Division IIIs, NAIAs, junior colleges that'll have sent people to the NFL if that's your goal. But there's a lot of people that have gone to colleges that didn't play in the NFL that are successful in life. Use this opportunity, whether it is to further your career in football, or use the opportunity to learn and grow and mature and take advantage of what you got and use it in your future, whether it become a father, a mother, if you're a female playing football, because we've had some, and use that in the future for your family, and take what you've and distill it on other people and go from there. I just think sometimes we live, or I should say grow, on negativity. Take the positive part of it. There's more positive than our negative. Just because there's one negative, everybody wants to jump on that bandwagon. Take the 99% that's positive and move forward with it, and get rid of the negative part of it. And I think they can be successful.
That's great words of advice, Doug. Thank you very much. And again, thank you for your time today here on the Sidelines. Thanks again to Doug Jones for joining me here on the Sidelines as our first official guest. You can follow Doug on Twitter at SKWAHDER. Thanks again for listening, and remember to check us out at UnionCountyFootball.com.
Thanks for listening to On the Sidelines, the official podcast of UnionCountyFootball.com, the #1 online source for football information in Union County, North Carolina.